The end of the 3-decade-long armed conflict in Sri Lanka in the year 2009 has given a boost to the country's then-growing construction industry. Within the past decade, the country saw an unprecedented development of high-end residential, commercial space, hotel resort construction, and infrastructure, recording a growth in the construction sector that was twice as fast as the nation's GDP. Sri Lanka is home to over 2,500 registered local construction firms, taking credit for many of the landmark edifices in the country. Sanken Construction Private Limited has cemented its credentials as a diversified construction company in Sri Lanka. Sanken is an ICATD CI graded entity with over 15 subsidiaries and associate companies. Their history runs back to 1977 when Mitsui Construction Company Japan commenced its operations in Sri Lanka. In 1988, Mitsui Construction Company Lanka Private Limited changed its name to Sanken Lanka Private Limited. Sanken's success story vary from single-story buildings to high-rises spanning 41 floors. And they include the Empire City Twin Towers, Majestic City, Odell, House of Fashion, H&B Towers, Hyde Park Residencies, and many more. From winning National Award for Construction Excellence in 2019, Sanken has been rewarded multiple times for their excellence. Engineer Major Ranjith Gunatilleke is the Managing Director of Sanken Constructions since 2002 and also the President of the Chamber of Construction Industry of Sri Lanka. He had been within the company from its inception. Prior to the appointment as Managing Director, he was serving Sanken as a director and Mitsui Construction as the chief engineer. His expertise and liaisons in the field of engineering had been proven to be a source of strength of the company's performance.
Hello everyone, this is another episode of Development Economics, and we have talked about many industries today: hospitality, the medical sector, many more. But today we are going to speak about a very important industry, and it is the construction industry. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us one of the most respected individuals in our country, a CEO of a huge construction company. No one but welcome everyone, Mr. Ranjith Gunatilleke, the CEO of Sanken Constructions Private Limited. Mr. Ranjith, hello.
Right, Pudha, go ahead. Go ahead with your question, be relaxed. Ask whatever the question you can ask on the construction industry, my personal life, but not private life. Okay? So, you can go ahead. What is important you can gather.
Sri Lankan construction industry plays an important role in the Sri Lankan economy. Government has embarked on many massive development projects. With massive development projects such as the Megapolis, Western Development Project, Golport Development Project, and the Central Expressway, the Sri Lankan construction industry is poised to grow within the coming years. So according to you, what is the importance of this construction industry to the development of the Sri Lankan economy?
You are correct because you have already gathered the knowledge, but certain things I want to correct it. When you say government, it's not this government, whatever the government. Okay? Yes. Right. Okay. Then the second thing, you referred to this Megapolis and Western Province Ministry, that is no more there, right? Yes. Now you have different ministries, please note that, right? So this is one of the major setback to Sri Lankan construction industry and development, because change of government, change the ministries. not only change the ministries, naturally they got to change the ministers. But only thing is, very unfortunately, change of government you can't avoid, change of ministers you can't avoid, but change of ministries, that means within the construction industry, change of ministries, disaster the development of this country. The worst is, with the change of ministry, unlike those days, the secretary, the permanent secretary, no more is a permanent secretary, right? This secretary is also politically changed, I should say, which disturbs the peaceful industry to a great extent. But your question is, yes, whatever the government, whatever the change of ministries, construction industry is a very developed, very important sector of the country's economy. That is, whether you have the war or you have the development, even in the case of demolition or disasters, still the construction industry coming into the picture to reinstate, or for the development construction industry coming, right? But you just think the project that you mentioned about port city development. You just study the port city development, how it was started, right? For anything in the industry or as an engineer or day-to-day life, what we see is you must have a target and scope. For all these projects, there is a scope. Also, there is a timeline. Except for our human life, timeline we don't know. But for all the other things, there is a timeline, right? The last is, there is a budget, there is a cost. Right? All our development is there. Now the people don't talk about it, but that is there. Then the port city development, you just check it when it's supposed to be commenced and when it's supposed to be finished, right? But the progress as an engineer or the person in industry, I'm not very happy, very slow. Simple reason, there were so many issues came in between. Once this was started, whether by it is Sri Lankan or Chinese or any other party, there were objections by the environmentalist, by the coast conservation. Finally, the same thing went through. But all these objections really hampered the project progress. No, this is what I'm telling you, take it port city, but it's common to all the projects. Very rarely a Sri Lankan development project has achieved their targets the way that they plan and it's completed, right? So it's very unfortunate. But it's not politics, but if I were to say you, one is the Mahavali project. What was planned for 35 years, they decided to reduce it to 7 years, but at least 70-80% achieved, good. And it's I think, overall as an engineer, I think it's a successful project. I don't want to go into it. Then second thing, what you talked about, the Central Expressway, right? The Central Expressway from Colombo to Kandy, all these difficulties people talked about to go to there. Now, when the Central Expressway going to be finished up to Karugastora, it's going to Kandy, but Karugastora. No one knows. But the trace is there, right? That has a section 1, 2, 3, 4. But only section 2 is getting completed, right? But there's no point of only section 2 getting completed, no. Because target is going to Kandy. So this is the project that you talk. So while we are talking about the others, we can say, but all these things are huge development, right? For this country, there are some more very large development projects to come in. So those who are in construction industry lucky, because they can very happily, be involved and have a very good job
Here
satisfaction.
in the Sri Lankan economy, construction industry is said to be the fourth highest sector, which approximately contribute around 7% to the Sri Lankan GDP. But at the same time, the construction industry is said to be facing lot of problems. And according to you, what are those challenges which exist in the construction industry in Sri Lanka? And especially, construction industry is an industry which requires a lot of material from overseas. So how did you face that challenge especially during this pandemic?
Yes, I note your questions. First thing is what's the role that the industry plays in the total economy. I think now maybe it's about 7-8%, but once it went up to 15% of the GDP, be high. And I take it up first the challenges, then we'll see the problems, and then again we'll come back to challenges and see. The challenges are when it's for construction industry, there should be activities. There should be a lot of funding, investments should come in. If there is no these things, then industry is dull. I mean, no activity. But the challenges is why no investments? One is the public investment, that's the government investment. Number two is the private investment. So if you take it overall, private investment is mainly coming for individual or sort of private development projects. Then public investments is coming for individual complexes developments, but mostly the public investments coming for infrastructure development, because for infrastructure development, there is no private investment unless it's as PPP, public-private partnership. But Sri Lanka, so far, it is not very common, or the people don't understand sometimes public-private partnership in the proper way, right? So the challenges, when it comes for the private investment, any private party, whether it is locally or foreign party coming to investment through Board of Investment, they think, they consider a few things of the country. One is country, the political stability, then the country's economical stability, then the other rules and regulations like labor, imports, exports, like that. But you all understand, even as very young people, you can see, you analyze, you can decide how is our political stability is. Correct? It's not very stable. Of course, we are a democratic country, but political stability is not there, right? I don't want to elaborate, but you can get someone to ask on that. Then comes the rules and regulations for investment. Because what is allowed to import today, tomorrow there may be rules coming not allowed, right? Certain economical things that is happening is not stable, that all the people tell you. Then, in short, how easy that you can get anything done in Sri Lanka is extremely difficult. Probably bureaucracy or rules and regulations or any other reason, right? So these are the challenges for the investment. Number two, if it is public investment, right, that is infrastructure. for the roads, water, ports, whether it is airports or the seaports, right? And these things, the challenges are that if you plan it, get it done within 1 year after all these environmental impacts, it takes at least 3 to 4 years to, even for a government organization or the government to go through it. Very unfortunate, but there could be some reasons which you can address, but that is that. So because these are the challenges. The problems are, right, that you are facing to execute that. So once you have these challenges, say with all that, investors come, government get funds, government put in money, and then try to implement, right? The problem is that the law is a bit relaxed. I don't want to go into detail, but I'll take the material. Now, as you touch the materials for this construction, what's the material available in Sri Lanka? We don't have steel, right? We have to import. Cement, we have some main products, but that is also we are importing. But cement, very much about 80% we are good that we are manufacturing here, but some raw materials getting down. Now, other than these two, for the development, most important is your soil, metal, and sand. The construction industry, we have to go through very much hassle to get these things done. The sand, yes. Metal, yes. You go for a quarry, you identify a quarry, you try to get the metal done, not that easy. There will be so many restrictions will come, so many decisions, and so many government organizations. So with these problems, to finally get a project through is our role. That's our construction industry role. The last major thing is the problem to get necessary skilled people. That is the professionals, including y'all are the budding professionals in the country, including y'all and the worker level and in between. These people, if you see, there are so many training courses, so many diplomats, certificates people, all these people are coming. Unfortunately, today the problem is these products are below the standard that industry expects. I will not try to elaborate, but it's earlier we were telling that it's some are good, some are bad. Today I can say most of the people are below the standard that we expect from the universities. We have informed this to universities because we have informed this to university administration, the university people, all that. So I will tell you what's the deficiency and what is the challenge of getting this. So as you said, imported materials we can import, we can do locally. There are few industries have come up for various items, but not the certain things we don't have such a big industry like, say, if we have to manufacture our own generators, not that is not can't, but or the elevators or such mechanical, electrical things or the turbines. So maybe it's not worth to think. But don't forget, go by Singapore. Singapore is very much small country by population, by area to Sri Lanka. They didn't have anything, but today they do a lot of construction industry, manufacturing. We can learn a lot from them. And for them, no raw materials. They have few engineers passed out from one or two universities. They don't have workforce. Singapore, half the workforce is expatriate workforce, or not half, more than that workforce. Total population is like that. So with all that they do, in ours, we can't do. But the issue is how we correct ourselves and go there. The main thing is we blame the government. I normally don't do. It is our bureaucracy. It is our professionals to be blamed.
Okay, sir. The economic consequences of COVID-19 are spreading faster and stronger as much as the virus itself. Construction projects are expected to be delayed or cancelled. Many construction and development companies operate without the substantial capital reserves and so on. How do you specify this impact from COVID-19 to your company and the construction industry?
It's a good question because it's a very timely question. This pandemic situation, two ways is happening and affecting the industry. One is how it's affecting the industry as per your person commitments to various parties, whether it's a government or private sector people, as per your agreement, right? Number two is how you practice in the field in the post-COVID or under this health guidelines. Number three, how these corporates, these business ventures exist. I should say, for the construction industry, most of the people, revenue has come down more than 50%. Okay. And for the 2020 financial year, which is going to be declared by March 31st, 2021, these figures must be worse because we had a lot of interruptions to stop the work. And second is the progress of work got very much delayed because people are not used certain personal gears. They use with the helmet, the mask, or the keeping the distance together. Those things really affected them, and the revenues came very much less, and production came very much less. So that how the corporate exists and how they are going to pay these people their salaries was a question, because they have to reduce salaries very much. From the big people, they reduce salaries at least by 50%, some people even by 60%. But for the small people, they affected only about 25 to 30% salary cuts, right? Because there's no production. And also, pandemic situation, unfortunately, if it is on the contracts, pandemic situations are considered as act of God, right? And it's contractually, it could be considered force majeure condition. So force majeure conditions, a client got to bear the client loss or damages, and the contractors and the consultants, respectively, they must bear their damages, so that the contractors don't get any payments. But unless if the client is good, right, they know the contract has come to them to help the client, right, then sometimes they consider some of the basic expense, right? Then when it comes for the this conditions going to be continued, and if we have not find a solution for this, it will be very badly affecting the industry, not only Sri Lanka, even internationally.
The next question is related to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on engineering and the construction industry. So what are the strategies that your company and the industry have taken to survive in both short term and the long term in order to reclaim the negative impact of the pandemic in terms of safeguarding the financial stability of the company and the industry as well as protecting the workforce. And also, sir, there is one more question, especially being a president of Chamber of Construction Sri Lanka, we would like to know the role that you're playing in order to uplift the current status of the construction industry.
Yes, now not only Sanken, but even the construction industry, not the pandemic situation, still there could be various other situations like this. But of course, I should say the people who are at a higher level of doing work, those who have more than about 5-6 billion worth of work, most of these people have now diversified construction industry activity with some percentage of construction for diversified different fields. Now, for example, the contractors who were in the construction industry, they have, with bank supports, they have gone for real estate development. Okay. Then, of course, if you say in Sanken, we have gone for even the hospitality industry, the leisure sector, right? So, but unfortunately with the COVID, all these things were affected, right? With the COVID, the only industry that you can think of is the plantation industry or the agriculture, right?
Yes, Mr.
Yeah, so that's a very good area, and some of the construction people are involved in agriculture, but I don't think the plantation, unless they inherited with long period. So, of course, if you take it Sanken, if you say, I think either 50% of Sanken revenue is from overseas, not only Sri Lanka, right? So that overseas construction work still going on, because our lot of work in Maldives, Seychelles, and we are not working in USA or UK, right? We are working in the neighboring country in a small way, like Bangladesh, even Bangladesh. So that our revenue was not much affected. So that also as a group, right, we are all right. But where we have invested like a cinnamon red and our resorts in Maldives, they are affected because the tourism is affected, right? But as a group, we are okay. There's we can't see any danger unless this pandemic is continued for 3-4 years, right? But your second question, as a chamber, right? For the chamber, as the president of the chamber, I get all these problems, not only for construction companies like contractors like Sanken, Maga, ICC. Then in the chamber, we have architects, we have designs, consulting engineers, structural engineers, we have quantity surveyors, we have valuers, insurers, then town planners, then manufacturers, then people who are in the trading, export importers, all these people they are in the chamber. So for these people, all the categories are affected, because of pandemic situation.
Very well, sir. So moving forward to my next question. As we all know, every business, every industry, every sector down here in Sri Lanka had to go through some tough times because of this COVID-19. Can you please comment on how the government played their role by assisting the construction industry, especially to regain their financial stability company-wise?
There is no specific financial support the government is giving, unlike the other countries like USA, New Zealand, UK. USA, the government, the assistance given is every person was got more than 600,000 Sri Lankan rupees, every person of 330 million. But definitely Sri Lanka can't do that. But our government also has helped. One is they gave many moratoriums in payments like EPF, ETF payment, then the loans where the construction people have taken from the banks moratoriums came. And also government expedite, normally the government got to pay a lot of payments for the people who are in the construction industry. Those are due payments, but the government expedited those payments, right? So these things came in, and also the government reduced the VAT. That is a very great thing. And then also government reduces taxes, right? So these things came in handy for industry. And for the difficult time, this was real support from the government. So we should appreciate. It's good for the industry.
So, in this new normal situation, what is the most concerned strategy that you think for your company to prioritize to gain the advantage back in hand?
All the corporates, the companies should think how they get them adjusted for this situation. But unfortunately, the human nature is not that. Now, for example, when tsunami came, government put a lot of regulations. You can't do anything within 400 meters from the sea, live and all that, because the tsunami made a huge disaster. And it's the first time I saw tsunami. Maybe I will not see another tsunami in my lifetime, right? So we have never heard. But unnecessarily we put a lot of rules, regulations, just like another tsunami will come within next year or next 5 years, right? So that what we lost because of unnecessary rules and regulation, because of getting prepared for another tsunami is useless. That's my opinion. If you study the tsunami, it came in after 2,000 years or something. Okay, the probability is saying that it can come tomorrow again or after another 2,000 years. So we must plan our rules, regulation to suit that. But unfortunately, things didn't happen. But now, one by one, you can see the hotels are coming, seashore is disturbed for tsunami. Now this pandemic situation, right? So this is also something like that. So we have to face the pandemic situation, but we have to do our planning not for another pandemic situation. Because the world can't have pandemic situation every 10 years like that. That's the end of the world. You think that once this virus or vaccinations are finished, pandemic situations are gone, you all will have a better life, and you can plan for better life, right? And government can plan for better political stability, economical stability, and the national stability. When I say national stability, we have our own issues of safeguarding our all communities and do a long-lasting solution for that. People have forgotten that. People are talking about only pandemic situation. But we have not got a still stable solution for our national stability, which put this country many years down for 30 years this ethnic issue, right? So more than the pandemic, still we have to find a solution for that. But that is our national things. Of course, construction and the development comes as a very small issue. Issues started with the 7% of the GDP, but the GDP will be zero when if we don't handle those national issues, political issues properly. So, but the private sector or the government sector industries and bureaucracy, the high people, management people like you all. So you have to think all that. Don't get disturbed for these once in 100 years issues. I will not plan Sanken for that. Okay.
The final question for you. This is related to the forecast in the upcoming years of the construction industry. This forecasting and understanding about the internal environmental as well as the external environmental factors are much more important. Therefore, what are the factors that you have identified as important to the construction industry in the upcoming years? As well as, where do you see the Sri Lankan construction industry in the future?
It's something that always we are concerned about. As I mentioned, I don't know what's the role that we can play, but as for all citizens, we must somehow or other, give the message to the community that all must see any country's political stability. At the moment, I should say for any investor, Sri Lanka is a democratic country. We have a president whose period is another 5 years, 4 years. We have a parliament whose period is another this. And that stability is very, very important. And we have that. So we must see that this is continuing so that there will be investors. Second thing is economic stability is how we lay down our rules and regulation as far as imports, exports, taxes, right? These things are concerned. That is very important for the construction industry for the future. Then the last and the most important thing is not only construction industry, for any other industry, is the discipline. You should understand the discipline is the number one. Discipline at all levels, whether it's His Excellency the President's level, or it is at the very bottom worker level, or even the beggars level, right? So they all must have a very good discipline, and they all must sincere in what they are doing, right? That is what you do at home. You've got to be sincere and honest to yourself, and every citizen of the country should be sincere and honest to their organization, their educational institute, their employer, or their whoever the party is, they must. So that is if this country can achieve, right? That's the day that the next generation is assured with something to go ahead. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ranjith. And that was a very important message that we have to deliver to this society. And during this COVID-19 situation, let's all be safe. And thank you for the invitees, for the guests, and for the questions raised by the individuals, all the reporters. Thank you. Have a good day.